Today, I'm going to focus on an idea that is literally going to turn your drumming upside down. If you've ever struggled with anything that is independence-based, tempo-based, dynamics-based, all of the things that we try to do when we're playing drums, this one idea or this one concept can really help you to battle all of those things at once and really kill 2, 3, 4 birds with one stone. This is something that I was never aware of in the first however many years of playing. It took me a long time to start realizing this and start being aware of this. And this one thing we're going to look at today is upward motion. So let's get into it. So upward motion, moving up. It seems so obvious to even mention it, and it almost seems kind of dumb to even mention it. But how many times have you honestly been aware of how you move up when you play the drums? Everything that we do, everything that makes a sound is on the way down. This is really evident sometimes in younger players when they first start playing. Everything is down focused to the point where the sticks don't bounce at all and they'll play digging the drumsticks into the drums and the cymbals so there's no rebound at all because there's no awareness of moving up. So to make that sound better, you encourage them to bounce the stick and move away from the drum, right? But even then, there's still not any awareness of actually how you move up. It's just something that happens between the notes. And all of the focus is on throwing the stick down and not lifting it up. So let's look at a few ways of how you can be more aware of your upward motion and work it into your practice. And you'll start to see how this benefits everything that you're trying to do, from your tempo to your dynamics to your independence to the feel of your playing. Everything will improve as you start to be aware of the entire movement from up and down. So let's start off dead simple. If we play quarter notes on one hand, 1, 2, 3, the stick has to move up between each note. Well, if we try and count that note, you'll notice you can count the 8th note in between. 1 and 4 and. So now our tempo is locked into the size of this motion. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And also your dynamics are relative to that as well. Right, the higher you lift the stick, the louder you're going to play, the lower, the quieter. So you've got these two things to kind of balance. If we play faster, we're going to move lower, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and. Faster again. It's totally natural that as you play quicker, everything becomes smaller. As you play slower, everything becomes bigger. And you can manage the dynamic levels in between that. But as a general rule, slower is bigger, faster is smaller. You're locking in everything into the upward motion. So now if we take that into the context of a single stroke roll, if we play notice both sticks return to the same height each time, the same height as each other, more importantly. If both sticks settle into this pattern here, again, relative to the tempo that you're playing at, then your timing is going to be consistent. And really, if you think of everything upside down, instead of counting the notes that you play at the bottom, try and count the notes that you play at the top. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The result at the bottom on the playing surface will be the same, right? As one stick hits the drum, the other one reaches the top of the stroke and vice versa. So if you lock that in, then your timing's going to be good and your dynamics are going to be level too, right? Again, if I play faster, we bring this bar down here and we play to a lower height. Slower is bigger. Slower again. You're using all the time that you've got between notes, again, relative to the tempo, to keep everything moving, a constant motion. We don't want to stop. And that's another thing that happens when you're not aware of this upward motion. If you go back again to exaggerate and dig into the drum, we're actually stopping completely every time we hit the drum. As well as it's sounding bad and not getting a nice tone, not getting rebound from the drum, you're actually stopping when you hit the drum and you have to start again, which ruins the flow of your playing. I often use a similar exercise when teaching double strokes. If you try and play double strokes as 16th notes, the upward motion as you play away from the drum on the second of each double stroke, the upward motion is the same as if you were playing single strokes as eighth notes. So if we go between the two, 1 and 2. Again, in practice, I can put more emphasis on the upward motion to try and keep everything in a constant motion and keep everything in a nice flow, right? 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And you can go on and on and on. If we play paradiddles, if you focus on the upstroke of a paradiddle, up, 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 up. Again, all of your timing, all of your dynamic control, your tempo, everything is locked into how you move up. Where does the upstroke get to before it comes back down again? You're trying to keep a constant motion going. You play the paradiddle faster, it all comes down. And that's just with your hands, right? The same applies to your feet. So let's put it into the context of playing a groove this time. So if we play eighth notes on the hi-hat, quarters on the kick and snare, think of the very first thing that you have to do before you even play a note, right? Before you can play that first kick and hi-hat, you've got to lift them both. Now, if you lift them both together, then they should land down together, right? So one of the problems that I used to face when I was younger and I was playing grooves is that I would flam between the kick and the hi-hat. I would get something that sounds like. I'm exaggerating there. Hopefully it wasn't that bad at any point, but you get the idea, right? You're trying to play two voices at the same time, kick and hi-hat, and you're trying to get them to play at the same time, but instead they flam. The only reason that's happening is because you're moving out of line, right? They're not moving at the same time. So again, if you put your focus onto the upstroke and lift, if your right foot moves up at the same time as your right hand, they'll land together. Now, I wish someone had highlighted that to me when I was younger, because I spent so much time trying to get rid of those flams. But again, I was only focusing on what went down. So you end up playing like, I'm trying to just hit the note at the same time. But instead of thinking of the overall movement, if they go, what goes up together comes down together. It's the same on beats 2 and 4 when you play the backbeat on the snare drum. Up, down, up, down. If you tie in the upward movements, they both land together. And that's the reason why, staying in the context of eighth notes, that's why it's easier to play the kick drum on all of the hi-hat notes on the eighth notes. So when you play any eighth note pattern is easier because your right foot always follows your right hand. So thinking more along the lines of independence this time, it's tricky when you first start trying to play the 16th note placements on the kicks, the E's and the A's, right? So when you try and put bass drum notes between the hi-hats, why is that more difficult? Because your right foot is now moving in the opposite direction to your right hand. So when the right hand goes down to play the hi-hat, your right foot's moving up, ready to play the kick. And as you play the kick, your right hand is on the way back up. So all of those kick note placements on the E and the A match the top of the right hand stroke. 1 E and 2 E The same principle as we looked at earlier on the hands playing the single strokes, only now you're substituting one of your hands for your foot, right? Instead of right, left, right, left, right, left. In alternating motion, we've got right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. So again, if you get the up movement in the right place and at the right time, the down takes care of itself, right? You just let gravity take care of that. You're not going to lift your foot and forget why you've lifted it. It's going to go down, right? So getting the timing of the upstroke makes the downstroke happen naturally. So obviously the more notes that you're playing and the busier the grooves that you're playing, the busier the fills, whatever it is, the more you have to be aware, because each limb has its own upstroke, right? So if we play 2 kick drum notes on 1 E at the start of the bar, right? It's easier to focus on the upward motion of the kick because it's nowhere near the backbeat of the snare, right? So that's over with by the time you get here. 1 E and 2 and 1 E and. Feel the upward motion of the left hand is once the kick drum pattern's finished, okay? 1 E up, 1 E up, 1 E up, 1 E up. If we play those kick drums closer to the backbeat, just before 2, so on the and-a, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Now you've got to be aware of the upward motion of your left hand while you're playing the kick drum. So it's another thing to think about. You're trying to literally trying to juggle these things at the same time, okay? So as we play the kicks this time, 1 and see the left hand's on the way up, still following what the right hand's doing. 1 and 2, 1 and 2. You're trying to make each individual limb perform its task without being affected by what the other stuff's doing. That's what independence is, right? That's what we're talking about here. So if we play just the hands and no kick drum, there's absolutely no problem in lifting the left hand to play the snare notes. And we do it the same every time, right? It's really consistent. But as soon as the kick drum notes get in the way and you're trying to perform another task, this is what I see happen quite a lot on a groove like this, is because more of your attention has been taken up by what your right side's doing on the hi-hat and the kick, we'll leave the left hand out now when it goes. And there's no back lift and you try and dig it in at the last second because you've lost the upward motion. Try to bring your awareness back to that again and make sure that you're still getting a nice big upstroke, and it's the same. Remember, you're not going to be playing the same pattern over and over and over. You might be playing a more irregular groove that changes, right? If we change the kick pattern up. Now you want your left hand to be doing exactly the same thing regardless of what the kick pattern is, regardless of what the hi-hat pattern is. It's trying to settle into its own movement, and that starts with the upstroke again, yeah? So that's a really brief kind of introduction and overview to this concept of upward motion, because honestly, you can go on for hours and hours and hours. Like, it applies to everything that you do. So if you try and be aware of it every time you practice, right? Don't do it in the middle of a gig. But every time you're in the practice room, slow it down. Anytime you're stuck with an independence challenge or a dynamic challenge, whatever it is, be aware of how you're moving up, right? Video yourself and watch your back and make sure you're not losing your upward motion in whatever you're playing. I've found that it's helped me so much to be more aware of that, and I've totally changed the way that I practice now, to be honest. And I really wish I'd been aware of this much, much earlier. So next time you're at the kit or the practice pad, wherever you're practicing, see if you can work in a little bit more awareness of the upward motion. I hope this video has been helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe and hit the like button and all of that. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.